Now talking about our first question, to simplify this equation, we can see that the denominator in these two parts of the equation, they can be summed as a part of a square minus b square, which can be written as a plus b into a minus b. So with that view, we can rewrite the whole equation as 12 into root 5 minus root 3 plus 18 into root 5 plus root 3 by 2. And from this, we'll get our answer as 3, 5 root 5 plus root 3, which leaves behind option number B as your answer. It says that S, T and U can complete a piece of work in 40, 48 and 60 days respectively, and they have received rupees 10,800 to complete the work. They begin the work together, but T left 2 days before the completion of the work and U left 5 days before the completion of the work. Now S has completed the remaining work alone, so we have to find out the share of S. Now first of all, if we talk about the share, we know that the amount that anyone will get will be directly proportional to the amount of work that he does. So with that view, let's just quickly start off by assuming the number of days, by assuming the LCM of the number of days, that is 40, 48 and 60, which has an LCM of 240 as the total work, with which we can say that their respective efficiencies of ST and U will turn out to be 6, 5 and 4 units. Now, with a view that T has left 2 days before the completion of the work and U has left 5 days before the completion of the work, let's just make the two people work for these many days for extra and then add that extra amount of work in this total work. So with that view, if we say with an efficiency of 4, if he works for 5 days, he'll do 20 units of work, and with an efficiency of 5 for 2 days, he'll do 10 units of work. That means now we are going to assume 270 units of work, which all three of them together will do the job, and for that they will do the job with a total efficiency of 15 units. And with a total efficiency of 15 units, total number of days taken turns out to be 18 days. But if we talk about the actual number of days taken by T, we know that it is 16 days, and for U it will be 13 days only. And with that view, we know that amount of work done is always the product of the efficiency and the time. So with that view, for S, T and U, the ratio for their work would be 6 into 18, that was his total work, is to 5 into 16 is to 4 into 13 for U. Or this ratio can also be written as 27 is to 20 is to 13. Now this sum of 60 units represents an absolute value of 10,800 rupees, which leaves the value of 27 to be 4,860, which leaves option number D in turn as your answer. It says that a farmer's land is in the shape of a trapezium, which has its parallel sides measuring 2.56 yards and 3.44 yards, and the distance between the parallel sides is 1.44 yards. Now the cost of plowing the land is 1800 rupees per square yard. Then what will be the amount that he has to spend in order to plow the entire land? Now first of all, talking about the area of the trapezium, we know that it is always half of the sum of the parallel sides into the distance between them, and keeping this formula in mind, we can say that it would be half of the sum of these values, that turns out to be 6 into 1.44, and this area multiplied with the cost per square yard will give me my total amount as 7,776 rupees, leaving behind option number C as your answer. It says that if after giving a discount of 18% a book is sold for 1,599 rupees, so what will be the mark price? Now with a discount of 18%, we can say that the selling price would be 82%. Now the absolute value of 82% is 1,599, which leaves the value of 100% or the mark price to be 1,950 rupees, which leaves option number C as your answer. It says that a man has 3 sons, 2 daughters and a wife, and they divided a sum of rupees 19,000 among themselves, such that each daughter gets 1.5 times the amount received by each son, and his wife received 600 rupees less than each son. So what will be the total amount received by the three sons is what we have to calculate. Now, talking about the question, since wife is receiving since 600 rupees less than each son, so if we assume, let's just say for the condition that the wife is also getting the same amount that each son is getting, so to compensate that, we'll have to add those 600 rupees to the total amount, that is 19,600 rupees. And with that view, now we can say that four people are getting the same amount while two people are getting the same amount. Now, let's just say that son and daughter, they have a ratio of 2:3 for their amount that each person gets from this 1.5 times. So, talking about the total amount given away would be twice of this and 4 times of this, which leaves the final ratio to be 3:4. Now, this sum of 7 units, 19,600 rupees, which leaves the value of 4 to be 11,200 rupees, with which we can say that the value of 3, that is for the three sons, the value would be 8,400 rupees, leaving behind option number D as your answer. It says that the average of 3 consecutive even numbers is A, and if next 5 even numbers are added, then what is the average of these 8 numbers? Now, talking about the average of odd number of consecutive numbers is always the middle number. That means if we are talking about the 3 numbers, then the value of the middle number will also be A, with which we can say that for the first would be A minus 2, and for the second one it would be A plus 2, then A plus 4, and the second number would be A plus 6, the third number would be A plus 8, and the fourth number would be A plus 10, and the fifth number would be A plus 12. Now, as we can see, the mid value of these 8 numbers would be this part, that is A plus 5. So that leaves option number C as your answer. It says that while selling an article at rupees 18,450, a person suffered a loss of 50%. So at what price he should sell the article in order to earn a profit of 50%? Now, if my 50% is my loss, then we can say that if we assume 100% to be the cost price, then 50% would be my selling price. Now, this 50% represents an absolute value of 18,450, which makes the value of this increase, that is of 100%, to be twice of this. And we know that to get this final selling price, we have to add this increase in the original selling price, with which all we need to do is calculate thrice the value of 18,450, which leaves option number C as your answer. Now it says that the present population of a town is 26,010. It increases annually at a rate of 2%. So what was the population 2 years ago? Now, talking about this 2% of increase, which acts successively, we can say that in net, if a value of 50 into 50, that could be 2,500, but let's just not calculate it right away, because in the end, the final calculation always turns up to be easier. So with that view, we know that a value of 55 into 55 will change into a value of 51 into 51 after 2 years. So this being the absolute value of 26,010, we can say that the value of 50 into 50 would be 25,000, because we know that square of 51 is 22,601. And with this, option number A becomes your answer. Now it says that a train of length 100 meters crosses another train of length 150 meters running on a parallel track but in the opposite directions in 9 seconds. If the speed of the train having length 150 meters is 40 km per hour, then what is the speed of the other train? Now, talking about the total length that they have to cover is 250 meters in exactly 9 seconds. So with that view, we can say that this will turn out to be our relative speed between the two trains, and that will in meter per second. So for kilometer per second, kilometer per hour, all we need to do is multiply it with 18 by 5, and the answer turns out to be 100 kilometer per hour. Now, since they are moving in the opposite direction, so their relative speed would be the sum of their individual speeds, and since we have the speed of one of the trains, that is 40 km per hour, so the value of the other train would be 60 km per hour, which leaves behind option number D as your answer. It says that what is the compound interest for 1 year on a sum of 20,000 rupees at a rate of 40% per annum compounded half yearly. Now, due to the fact that it is being compounded half yearly, that means in a period of 1 year, this rate of 20%, because we know if for 12 months my rate is 40%, then for 6 months my rate would be 20%. So this rate of 20% will act twice on the same amount, that is 20,000. And we know that each time a value of 5 will increase to a value of 6. So that means we can say that in effect a value of 25 will increase to a value of 16 after 2 periods. Now, with this we can say that there is an interest of, it would be 36, there is an interest of 11 rupees. Now the absolute value of 25 is given to us as 20,000, which leaves the value of 11 to be 8,800, making option number D as your answer. It says that we have to find out the difference of the cube and the square of a common roots of these two equations. Now, talking about this particular equation, it can be easily rewritten as x minus 3 into x minus 5, and this particular equation can be written as x plus 7 into x minus 5. Now, as we can see, the common root turns out to be 5 for each equation. So with that view, the cube of 5 we know it is 125 and square of 5 is 25, which means their difference turns out to be 100, leaving behind option number B as your answer. Now it says that from the given quadratic equation we have to find out the value of this particular equation. Now since we know that sum of two positive numbers, now these two values they will always be positive, and for their sum to be 0 the individual values has to be 0, with which value of x turns out to be 1 by 3 and value of y turns out to be 4, with which we can calculate the value of this particular ratio very easily as 13 by 11, leaving behind option number B as your answer. Now it says that what is the difference of the factors of the expression x square plus 1 by x square minus 6. Now, in order to calculate the factors of this particular equation, we know that we have to keep it equal to 0, with which the value of x square plus 1 by x square turns out to be 6. And from here we can say that value of x plus 1 by x will turn out to be 2 root 2. That is 6 plus 2 under root. Now, we can easily rewrite this whole equation as x plus 1 minus 2 root 2x equals to 0. And from here, the value of x, the two factors of x, turns out to be root 2 plus 1 and root 2 minus 1. But since we are dealing with x4, x to the power 4, so there must be 4 roots. So for that we have to consider plus minus of each of these two roots. And with that view, we can say that the required difference turns out to be root 2 plus 1 minus root 2 plus 1 minus root 2 plus 1 plus root 2 plus 1. And from this the value turns out to be 4, which leaves behind option number D as your answer. In this we have the value of x plus 1 by x equals to root 13, and we have to find out the value of x to the power 5 minus 1 by x to the power 5. Now, talking about the situation, if it would have been x to the power 5 plus 1 by x to the power 5, we had a simple equation for that and we could have solved it very easily. But since instead of this plus there is negative, we have to be cautious. Now, if we talk about how to get minus sign over here, at least one of it, we know that this part, this ratio is available through the equation which says that x square plus 1 by x square multiplied by into x to the power cube plus 1 by x cube, and this gives us the value. When we multiply these two equations, we get the value as x to the power 5 plus 1 by x to the power 5 plus x plus 1 by x. But since we need this to be negative, so keeping this value as negative, because we know that calculating this as negative is complex. So and getting this as negative is quite simple as compared to this one. So keeping this thing as negative, we know that the whole value that we will get would be, instead of here, it would be minus, and this thing will also be minus. And with that view, along with these two signs also being negative. And with that view, all we need to do is first of all calculate the value of x square plus 1 by x square into x cube minus 1 by x cube minus x minus 1. And with that view, we know that this value can be easily calculated by squaring it. That will give us 13 minus 2, that is 11. And for this, we know that we need the value of x minus 1 by x, and for that, to convert this equation to x minus 1 by x value, all we need to do is, first of all, if we assume this to be a, then all we need to do is a square minus 4 ka under root, and this will give us the value 3, with which the value of x cube minus 1 by x cube will turn out to be 3 cube plus 3 into 3, giving us the value 36. And multiplying 36 with 3 and subtracting the value of 3, that is this value, we get the final answer as 393, leaving behind option number C as your answer. Now the question says that D and E are the points on AB and AC sides of a triangle such that DE is parallel to BC. And it is given that AD equals x centimeters, DB equals x minus 3, and AE equals x plus 3, and EC equals x minus 2. So we have to find out the value of x. Now, talking about the two triangles being similar, because we know that whenever two sides are parallel of a triangle, then the two makes a similar triangle with a common vertex. And with that view, we have been given that this length is given to us as x and this one as x minus 3, which makes this value to be 2x minus 3, or we don't even need this, we can even say that x by x minus 3 should be equal to x plus 3, that is the value of AE, divided by x minus 2. And from here the value of x will turn out to be 4.5, leaving behind option number D as your answer. Question number 16. Now it says that if the median of a triangle has a length 18 centimeters, 24 centimeters and 30 centimeters, then we have to find out the area of the triangle. Now always remember that the area that this median forms, let's just say that these 18 centimeter, 24 centimeter and 30 centimeter are also making a triangle, then the area of that triangle, its 4/3 value is always the area of the actual triangle. And with that view, if we talk about the area of this triangle, it can be easily calculated using the Hero's formula, and that area will turn out to be 216, and 4/3 of this value, that is 288 centimeters square, will be the area of the actual triangle, leaving option number C as your answer. It says that two smaller circles touches a larger circle internally and passes through the center O of the larger circle. If the diameter of the bigger circle is 28 centimeters, then what is the area of the bigger circle which is not enclosed with the two smaller circles? Now, the diagram wants to convey the message that there are two circles with a bigger circle, and this being our center of the bigger circle, they have a common diameter. Now, since we know that this bigger length is 28 centimeters, then this length turns out to be, or the radius of the bigger circle turns out to be 14 centimeters, and the area and the radius of the smaller circle turns out to be 7 centimeters. Now, if we talk about the required area, that would be pi r square minus twice of pi r square, that is the smaller circle. Now, taking 2 pi into 14, that is 98 pi, common from this, we will be left behind with an equation. We will be left with 98 pi under the inside the bracket there would be 2 minus 1, and the value of 98 pi is 22/7, giving us the value as 308 centimeters squares, and leaving behind option number C as the answer. Says that in a given figure, O is the incenter of a triangle ABC And if AO by OE is 5 by 4 and CO by OD is 3 by 2, then what is the ratio for BO and OF? Now, talking about solving this question, one of the readily available concepts for these type of questions, as we infer to the world of CAT, we have a theorem which goes by the name mass point theorem. Now, this is a simple application of the mass theorem that we use in physics, which says that about the center of mass. If we assume this to be the center of mass, then this center of mass is dividing the line, the distance between the two masses, let's just say m1 and m2, in the ratio x is to y, where x by y is always equal to m2 by m1. That means the bigger the mass, the smaller will be the distance from it, and the smaller the mass, the bigger will be the distance with respect to the center of mass. So keeping this theorem in mind, we know that in the end, for the whole figure, the center of mass will always lie on the center of the figure, that is the in center. And let's just say that because we know in this ratio we'll get 9 from here in the denominator, and from this ratio we'll get 5 in the denominator. So assuming the LCM, that is 45, to be the total mass of the whole body, which will be concentrated on the center of mass. So with that view, if we talk about line AE, about this line AE, we can say that the mass that would be concentrated on this point A would be 45 into 4 by 9, that is the multiplication, the product of the other side divided by the whole length into the total mass. And that means about point A, if we just talk about point A, the mass that would be concentrated will be 20 units. And similarly about the line CD, if again, since the same center of mass lies for all the three lines, so the ratio has to be considered for all the three lines. And with that view, if we say that if we say the mass that will be concentrated on point C would be the total mass, again 45 into 2 by 5, and that turns out to be 18 kgs or 18 units. Now, since we know that the total mass is 45 units, so that means the mass of point B has to be 7 units. And if we talk about point A and B, if we are considering point B as one of the mass, for the other end the mass would be the sum of point A and point C, that is 38 units. And with this, the ratio between X, that is BO, and BF and OF would be 38 is to 7, which leaves behind option number C as your answer. Now for this particular question, we have to find out the simplified value of tan theta by 2 and cot theta by 2. Now if we assume theta by 2 to be alpha, we can say that this whole equation can be rewritten as sine square alpha plus cos square alpha by sine alpha into cos alpha. Now we know that this, if we multiply the denominator with 2, and to maintain the ratio we know that we have to multiply the numerator also with 2. So this part of the equation will give me the value sine 2 alpha, or we can say sine theta, and this part will give me the value 1. That means the answer turns out to be 2 cos sec theta, which leaves behind option number A as your answer. Now to get the simplified value of the given trigonometric expression, we can even say that, let's just say that sec x is A and tan x is B. So this will give me the identity a cube minus b cube, which will have one of its factors as a minus b. That means from the first part of the equation we'll be left with the equation a square plus b square plus a into b. And from the other part we know that these two values will cancel out each other, and we would be left with the value sec square x minus tan square x. and this gives us the answer as 1, which leaves behind option number D as your answer. It says that in the given equation we have to find out the value of cos square theta into sine square theta. Now we know one fact that sine square theta plus cos square theta is always equal to 1. So after double squaring the whole equation, we'll get a final equation as sine 8 theta plus cos 8 theta plus 2 sine 4 theta into cos 4 theta equals 1 plus 4 sine 4 theta into cos 4 theta minus 4 sine square theta into cos square theta. And bringing this value 1 to LHS side and this value to RHS side, we get the value of the whole equation as 2 sine 4 theta into cos 4 theta equals 4 sine square theta into cos square theta. And from here we get the value of sine square theta into cos square theta equal to 2, which leaves behind option number D as your answer. Now in these four questions from 22 to 25, we are talking about 5 students who have scored certain marks in 4 different subjects, along with the information that the total marks are 100. Now our first question 22, it says that in which subject the total marks of all the students is the highest. Now clearly English and Hindi cannot be the two which will compete for the first 2 spots. So comparing mathematics and science, we know that over here maths is plus 6, but over here it is plus 5, and over here there is no gap, and over here it is minus 7, and over here again 0. Now talking about the net effect, we know that mathematics is on the higher side. That means for question number 22, option B would be your correct answer. It says that which student had scored maximum marks in all the 4 subjects taken together. So talking about the 5 students, we can say that especially the 4th one and the first one, and along with comparatively the second one, cannot be the first 2 people. So only by comparing the 3rd and the 5th one, where initially there is a lag of 6 marks with our person 3, but in the second paper there is an increase of 7 marks, and so is in the increase of 7 marks in the 3rd paper. And if we talk about the 4th paper, again there is an increase of 6 marks. That means overall third has more marks as compared to the 5th one, and this leaves option number C as your answer. It says that a new subject is added and in which all the students have scored 100 marks. If total marks are calculated as sum of the marks of the highest 4 subjects, then who will be second in the terms of total marks? Now since we are comparing 4 subjects and one of those 4 subjects has 100 marks each for each candidate, that means we have to compare only top 3 subjects. Now talking about our person 1, his top 3 subjects are these 3, and for the second one the top 3 subjects are these, and for the third one the top 3 subjects are these, and for the fourth one the top 3 subjects are these, and for the fifth one the top 3 subjects turns out to be. Now talking about comparing these 3 subjects, highlighted subjects, we know that 4th and 5th are straight away out of the picture, and also along with them the first one, because they have marks like 87, 89 and 86, whereas second and the third person are almost having 9 marks in 19. And with that view, clearly person third would be the person with the highest marks. That means our second person would be the person on the second place, and this leaves option number B as your answer. It says that the average marks per student in English is what percent of the average marks per student in Hindi. Now since this number of students are same for both the sections, so rather than going for the average marks, we can even calculate the percentage based upon the total marks of English and Hindi. Now talking about English, the total marks for English are 407, and for Hindi the total marks are 439. So with this, the required percentage would be 407 divided by 439 into 100, which leaves 92.71% as your answer and option number C as the correct option.